We all know Mimir, the talking head from God of War 2018, and God of War Ragnarok with endless stories and much needed comic relief. In the game, we find him while Kratos and Atreus are traveling to the highest peak in the 9 realms. Here, Mimir tells them the highest peak is in Jotunheim, the land of the giants, and he would help him if he would carry him along. Hearing this out, Kratos beheads Mimir and takes his head to the Witch of the Woods, or FREYA, who would revive his head using old magic. Much to Kratos and Atreus' and the player's surprise, Mimir and FREYA already know each other, and by the looks of it, FREYA had a deep hatred for Mimir. How many, you ask? To understand better, let's listen to the story of Mimir, or as he calls himself, the smartest man alive. Mimir comes from a faraway land, not mentioned in the game. He was a fairy king's errand boy and unofficial joker. Frequently, Mimir and other fairies would walk amongst mortals to sow mischief, and as long as his lord was kept amused, they were spared the consequences. Eventually, Mimir's king grew weary of his antics and exiled Mimir from his home. Leaving his homeland, Mimir travels far north, where he would eventually come to the 9 realms, where he discovers Odin and the most powerful and influential of the figures. At first, he becomes an advisor to King Aldous and vouched for the warrior Hrolf Kraki. Hrolf betrayed Aldous, killing and usurping him, which brought Mimir great guilt and gave him a vendetta against Hrolf and his berserkers. Soon after seeking to get himself in line with Odin, Mimir would provide convenience to Odin through a varied number of trickery and hard truths that was a well of endless wisdom and knowledge, which in reality was well laced with enough magical mushrooms to give the god visions. Despite Odin tearing out one of his eyes after imbibing the hallucinogen, Mimir claimed the All-Father was bestowed with greater sight, and he was hired as Odin's primary advisor and ambassador to all the other realms. While initially his job was just to be a yes man to the god, Mimir started to become better at his job and started caring for the people of the realm. While Odin was a cruel figure and often started wars with other realms, especially the realm of Vanir and the giants, Mimir soon took it upon himself to stop his master from waging war and bringing peace among the 9 realms because he thought this could be the best way to prevent Ragnarok, the end of everything. When the war with the Vanir caused unprecedented devastation and left both sides weary, Mimir suggested a truce. Odin would marry his deadliest enemy, the leader of the Vanir, the goddess FREYA. After much convincing, Odin and FREYA agreed to the terms, thus ending the war. But this would just postpone Ragnarok rather than prevent it, as later on in the story, we can see FREYA has grown to hate Mimir for playing his part in the marriage. The other biggest enemies of the Aesir were the giants. Mimir learns to speak in their tongue and soon becomes a companion of the giants, to the point where they gift Mimir Bifrost Crystal for Mimir's eyes. This would make it easy for him to travel between the 9 realms, since he traveled so much through one realm to another. Mimir's friendliness with the giants was taken as a betrayal by the All-Father. After Odin orders his son Thor to go on a murderous rampage to kill most of the giants, Odin binds Mimir to a tree at the highest peak in Midgard, where he would be punished every day. Along with this, Odin also scoops out Mimir's left eye embedded with Bifrost Crystal and places it in a statue of Thor. Till the date Kratos and Atreus finds him, Mimir spends 109 winters bind to the tree watching everyone who passes. Before we go on to the next part of the video, did you know that in God of War 2018, Mimir's second eye could be retrieved? It is found in the world serpent and can be found inside a hidden chest when Atreus and Kratos travel inside the serpent's stomach. Moving on, after hearing about the fiction of Mimir, the smartest man alive, let us dive into the myth of Mimir from Norse mythology. Mimir is the uncle of Odin and one of the wisest gods of the Aesir tribe, and is a deity related to wisdom. He inhabited well deep in the roots of the Yggdrasil tree. It is said that water from this well granted person who drank it great wisdom. It is a well-known fact that Odin, the ruler of the 9 realms, was a god always in search of wisdom and knowledge, and in order to do so, he came across Mimir. But in order to drink the water of the well, Odin would have to give a tough sacrifice of one of his eyes to the well. Not taking into account the god's determination to gain knowledge, Mimir did not expect Odin to cut out one of his eyes to throw inside the well. And finally, after drinking the water from the well, Odin became a wiser figure. Long after, during the war between Aesir and Vanir, is when the story of Mimir is of great significance. The Vanir goddess FREYA was always the foremost practitioner of the art of satyr, the most terribly powerful kind of magic. She eventually came to Asgard, the home of the Aesir. The Aesir were quite taken by her powers and zealously sought her services, but soon they realized that their values of honor, kin, loyalty, and obedience to the law were being pushed aside by their selfish desires they wanted to fulfill with the witch's magic. Blaming FREYA for their own shortcomings, the Aesir attempted to murder her. They tried burning her 3 times, and all of those 3 times she rose back again from her ashes. Because of this, the Aesir and Vanir came to hate and fear one another, and soon both tribes erupted into war. Both sides took turns in gaining the upper hand, and great destruction was bestowed upon both sides by this war. Eventually, the two tribes of divinities became wary of fighting and decided to call a truce. As was customary among the ancient Norse peoples, the two sides agreed to pay tribute to each other by sending hostages to live among the other tribes. Freya and NJORD were sent from Vanir, went to the Aesir, and Hænir and Mimir went to the Vanir. NJORD and his children mostly lived more or less in peace in Asgard. Unfortunately, the same can't be said of Hænir and Mimir in Vanaheim. The Vanir immediately saw that Hænir was seemingly able to deliver incomparably wise advice on any problem, but they failed to notice that this was only when he had Mimir in his company. Hænir, in reality, was a rather slow-witted simpleton who was at a loss for words when Mimir wasn't around. After Hænir responded to the Vanir's entreaties with the unhelpful "let others decide" one too many times, the Vanir thought they had been cheated in the hostage exchange. In turn for their trickery, they beheaded Mimir and sent the severed head back to Asgard, where a distraught Odin would chant magic poems over the head and embalm it in herbs. Mimir's head was saved, and he continued to serve indispensable advice to Odin in times of need. The stories from the myth and fiction share quite similarities, but are vastly different when it comes to showing the characters' traits of each. We think the God of War version is much more grounded in reality compared to the story of the myth, but both surely tell an interesting tale. Which one do you prefer? Be sure to let us know down in the comments. We personally think that the story of Mimir for God of War is a more interesting one because of the fact that it plays a major factor in the world building of the game. Not only that, but his small snippet-sized tales make the game even so much more interesting and meticulously detailed. If you like this video, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up on our video and make sure to subscribe for more similar content. And if you haven't already, check out our past videos to explore similar stories in Norse mythology. Until next time.